You want some great coffee to bring to your coffee hour for after liturgy? Or how about just to drink every morning on your own? When I do drink coffee, this is the only brand I drink, Fox & Sons Coffee. They believe over there, my man Stephen Fox believes that coffee should come with a great story. His began on Saturday mornings with his dad, early breakfasts, good conversation, and a shared cup of coffee that sparked a lifelong passion. Those memories shaped who he is and inspired him to start this company, Fox & Sons Coffee, not just for the love of the coffee itself, but to honor his father and pass something meaningful to his two sons. Now, he's inviting you and me to be part of that legacy. If you guys need gifts, if you just love coffee, and like I said, maybe you just want to bring some to the parish for coffee hour, now is the perfect time to try these handcrafted, family-inspired blends. We've got a code for you, BUCK15 at checkout, BUCK 15 at checkout. Get you 15% off all orders over $35, so you can save big and sip better coffee than you may be used to. This coffee, again, is made with love, roasted with purpose, shared with family. Fox & Sons Coffee, brewed from the heart.
This is a Dissident Media production. DissidentMedia.net.
You're tuned into the Counterflow Podcast, home of dissident voices,
unapproved opinions.
But you gotta get ready.
You ready?
Now here's your host
and humble narrator,
Buck Johnson. Let's go.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back once again to the Counterflow Podcast. As always, I am your host and humble narrator, Buck Johnson, coming to you out of Lockhart, Texas. Last week, at the end of that episode, I said, next week, we will do a stream, if you will, a deep dive into an Orthodox perspective on Mormonism. That will be next week, and it's going to be a good one. This week, I might as well call this one The Adventures of Stevie Rudko. I don't want to make light of any of the darkness that gets brought up in this discussion, but the good thing is it's a bright, beautiful ending to these adventures. So far, right? There's still a lifetime to go for Stevie, but there's some crazy tales in this discussion. Stevie, I had seen him in the chats on a lot of the shows I watch, including my own, and he's been supportive and would drop super chats for me and started writing offline. And then I saw him on Mano's Study of Stuff podcast and was sort of blown away by his humility and his vulnerability and his story and his adventures, as we will say. Medical, hospitals, and then finally entering the hospital for the soul. There's a lot in this discussion. There's some emotional aspects to it. And ultimately, like I said, a happy ending as he will be baptized in a few short weeks. Speaking of a few short weeks, it's a few short days until our Patreon Zoom supporters chat. As this episode drops here on Tuesday, it's this Thursday, May 8th, y'all. If you want to join, it's patreon.com/counterflow and just do $5 a month or more if you'd like. It gets you in. Father Joshua Gainig is going to be our special guest. It's going to be an Ask the Priest Anything You'd Like evening in our Zoom chat. It will not be recorded. It will not be posted. If you are not there, you will miss out. So I hope to see a lot of you guys with us this Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time. If you're a member of the group already donating, don't worry, you'll get the invite in a day or two, the Zoom link, and we'll do it up Thursday night. Let's get to our friend Stevie Rudko. I'm so happy to have him on. I was happy to see him on Mano's show, and you are going to find this fascinating adventure edifying. So, without further ado, our friend Stevie Rudko, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. I'm excited about this. I should, just so it doesn't look like I'm completely copying our friend Mano, I will give him a shout out in the SOS, the Study of Stuff podcast, because it's not like you've been a guest on 100 different platforms, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to be one of those people. It was only on his that I've seen, and so in a way, I am copying him. But the story was so good, I thought I want to talk to him also. And you've been so supportive of his show, my show, and others that I just wanted to get you out there to more people, because you just look like a typical buttoned-up Orthodox male.
Dude,
you know.
I feel like it was the goatee. It was like it was the beard. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But
Well, thanks for doing this. Just give a very quick intro. Anything you'd like to tell them about what you do now? This part will be very short because we're getting into the deeper picture here after that.
I am a father. That's like my main thing. Husband. Finding my way on a professional level right now. Again, that's just my MO, man. I'm kind of in a predicament where I'm blessed to focus literally on my children.
How many kids?
I have 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does your wife, is she coming into the church as well?
She is slowly but surely. She was baptized Catholic in her youth. But we, banded together in the secular world, so to speak.
Yeah. Yep. I know. I want to talk about, it seems like the little story of your life that I know, there's two hospitals, 2 types of hospitals that have played a major part in your life. One being the medical one that we all know, and now being the hospital for the soul. And you've experienced both, and you needed both. I guess to build intrigue, so we don't start too slow and people are like, what's crazy about this story? We'll say you nearly died by having your throat slit. You've been an addict, and now it ends well, people. So when we get into moments where you're like, goodness, you're going to be baptized into the Orthodox Church at the end of May. I thought you said May 24th, but I'm not totally positive on that.
Right.
Okay.
May 24th.
So it's obviously been a whirlwind. We can start with, people do this when you become Orthodox, and I do it too, because it's like when I used to live in Austin, when you met someone, the first question is, where are you from? Because no one's from Austin. And so I feel like now that there's this influx of people like us into the Orthodox Church, the question usually is, well, what were you? And I guess we can start off. Yours is interesting because your dad, is he still a pastor now?
Yeah, he is. I wouldn't say active of a congregation, but he is involved in ministry. But he was. I was raised again Protestant, and he was a minister for over 2 decades as a Protestant preacher.
Okay, well, that could be a wide array of choices. Because again, with Orthodox, it's like, oh, this guy's an Orthodox priest, kind of like, okay, that is what it is, unless you say which jurisdiction. But what specific sect, I guess, of Protestantism were you kind of surrounded with?
Pentecostal, yeah.
Were you attending that a lot as a youth?
I was really involved, man. Really involved through my entirety of childhood into my youth. And that's when I kind of took a departure in my later teen years.
Yes. I guess that my departure, even when I was into the subculture stuff as a teen, I guess the church I was going to, we did have tongues speaking, was not Pentecostal. It was actually very, now that I understand history and the, I suppose, politics within the church, it was extremely Zionist, probably the biggest Zionist church, I think, in America. But he yelled a lot. He beat the Bible. And I, as a teen, and of songs where people yelled, I kind of liked that aspect of it. I was like, man, he gets fired up. This is cool. The music was terrible, of course.
Right.
But I suppose once I left San Antonio and moved into adult life, I didn't care enough to like, well, now I'm in Austin. Let me go back and search for a cool mega church. It was like, okay. And then I kind of fell out of it. And then as I got into like strict libertarian ethics and whatnot, it's very based in rationality and logic or whatever. And so then I was like, well, I think I'm an atheist. When you fell out of the church part of it, was your dad like, Stevie, what's going on?
Yeah, in a way, my father had a very odd way of direction. And it was almost like you're going to learn the hard way. You know, he would make his statements and, you know, be like, that's not the right way to go. But, you know, maybe it's because it's in the bloodline and he did the same thing, but it's like, yeah, you're going to learn the hard. But, you know, I can only say so much, you know, you're a man or going to grow into a man.
Yes.
So,
yes. And you were, as I still am, close with your mom, yes?
correct. Yeah. Absolutely love her. I mean, I love my father too, but yeah.
Yeah, same. And my mom was always the one that was like super loving. But as I explored, you know, I remember she made the deal when I was 16, you can shave your head, but we're going on this business cruise first. At the time, it was like longer and shaggier. She said, just here's the deal. I'll let you shave it when you get back. I know that's the stuff you're into, but first just cut it short and look like a preppy for this cruise. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And she was always willing to say, as long as you make decent grades and you don't screw up too badly, kind of push the boundaries of what you want to explore. And you're into music I don't like. You're going to shows I wish you wouldn't go to, but I love you. You're a good kid, generally speaking. I think it sounds like your mom was similar.
Yeah, I'm completely. She definitely, you know, she wanted us to express ourselves. My dad has like more of a militant background, very stern, kind of Slavic background. And just, you know, that's his demeanor, strong voice, just, hey, you know, but my mom wanted us to be able to express ourselves. And as we reached adolescence, it was, you know, my father's move on, hey, boot camp, we're like a military boot camp, you know, this will tune him into the man that he needs to be. My mom was like, absolutely not. They can die there. You know, they can listen to music, though it's not the Christian route, you know, Protestant fun route, whether that be a post-hardcore show, Christian punk show. And we were totally not just involved in that. But yeah, so there was a lot of grace bestowed upon my mother, from my mother.
Yes. Sheath Underwear has come aboard to sponsor the Counterflow podcast. How about that? At sheathunderwear.com/counterflow, or just go to sheathunderwear.com and use Counterflow at checkout for a discount. Men, do yourselves a favor. Elevate your daily comfort with Sheath Underwear. The innovative dual pouch design provides unparalleled support and separation, ensuring each part of you has the space it deserves. Experience the sophistication, finally, of a design that respects your anatomy. The moisture-wicking technology sets a new standard in comfort. This advanced system not only keeps you cool, which you need when you live in Texas, especially, well, most times of the year, but it prevents chafing, odor, making every movement feel effortless. So, once again, go to sheathunderwear.com/counterflow or use the promo code Counterflow at checkout. Experience the perfect blend of comfort and functionality with Sheath. So it does sound like, though, the church, I think there's this thing where when you're kind of raised by, like, it's the default backdrop is a sort of church. Now, I hope it's not like this with Orthodoxy with young people. I don't know yet because I'm still new to it relatively. But it seemed like, at least in some circles of certain forms of Christianity, it's just the default surrounding. And then you kind of go and do your life, and maybe it sticks. Maybe you kind of fall away a bit. It just didn't stick, I suppose. And then maybe in some sort of rebellious nature that I still have to an extent that I try to curtail at times, then I would actively rebel, like, that's bullshit. You know, like, then I was mad about it, sort of. I think, luckily, you never were, like, put off by God. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. No, that was, you know, I definitely had a respect for it. And I knew, being one thing I will tell you that the Protestant church does do is they are in the scripture a lot,
Yes.
it just is something you're in the scripture. And from Sunday school in my youth to, developing into my adolescence, I've been through the scriptures a lot. Maybe not understanding, but I know, you know what I mean? It's just kind of that same concept with, there's a lot of people who know God, but don't have a relationship with Christ. And that can pertain to the scripture, So that being said, there was never a rejection of Christ or a pentagram wearing kind of cool. Did not do that. Never. So
then talk about the steps into teenage years and subculture and what you were into.
So I guess in the Protestant church, there's a lot of genres, and so does the same within the Christian music basis of that. So, prior to that, I was experimenting with like bands like MXPX, things of, Under Oath, like the early Under Oath when they were like deathcore. We're talking, 25 years ago now. So I was just about to hit when I was enthralled or like just enveloped in music, as you establish a lot of times. When you become aware in your adolescence, preteen, you're just like, music is amazing, Oh, dude, style, whatever. So, really,
let me stop you right there real quick, because now that you got me thinking, for you it's that way, and for me it was that way. I mean, I was I think I'm older than you. I'm 48, but I was 9 or 10 living in Los Angeles when Guns N' Roses and Poison and these things hit. It was not necessarily like every kid at school just, whoa, look at all this, but I was. And then in high school, most kids were not going, I found oi music, or I found the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, but I did, and the Misfits and so on down the line. What was it that made you not just like, I turn on the radio and whatever's on, I like. I turn on the TV, whatever's on, I like.
I think it was the skate culture, honestly, as being, the skate culture was a pastime activity that I did in my childhood. And from like thrashing to it as it developed into a lot more than, old school flat ground, doing about a 360 on flat ground into, ollie came into, kick flips came into play, and just that counterculture, coincided with music so well. It just started being, hand in hand. It was like, let's go jam and listen to, or skate and listen to some awesome music.
Yes. Suicidal tendencies were always somewhere around skate culture, it seemed like, when I was young.
And then, as it developed, still was a pivotal band in the skate culture. And then so much more, just a lot of the like boy punk came in play. I also do have an older brother that did put in a lot of work and just kind of exposed me to good music. And in my youth, so I didn't have a choice, you know what I mean? At some point when I was like, this is, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm just like, still playing action figures. I don't want to listen to Offspring and the Exploited and the Casualties. But, as that being essentially a foundation, I found what I liked in it.
Okay. And then what was that you liked? Because it wasn't just like the Christian stuff, was it? It was just...
Exactly. No, man. And then going back, the New York Dolls, which, Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, again, just huge influences, not only like musically, but aesthetically too. Just
it still looks like that. The first time I saw you, I was like, he looks like he likes the New York Dolls.
Right. Completely. Totally loved that. And then it developed from there, going into more mainstream punk rock, but then, like I stated before, like the Sex Pistols, the poppy punk rock, the Clash, Anti-Flag, Leftover Crack, Choking Victim, had a lot of edgy vocals with just poppy riffs,
Yeah.
And then from there, developed into going into the post-hardcore scene,
Okay. And then did you get into the sad, the emo stuff?
Completely, man. I heard my first heartbreak and actually that coincides with and like really ties in my departure from the church, the Protestant church, and the death of my great aunt, who was essentially a grandmother figure, enveloped me in just love and nourishment and just a very pivotal character in my life that died. And I was already in a state of rebellion and watched her die in hospice, like was at home with her as she slowly died. And it was such a tragic moment for me that I was like, how could God let this happen? It was a personal attack on me. I don't understand death, heartbreak. And then, yes, the emo music definitely was just like, oh, they feel what I feel.
Yep. We'll get into some of the craziness. Was the jumping off the house prior to the old gas station incident? Okay.
Yes.
Because the jumping off the house is pivotal and I think in some of where things went. So we'll talk about that. And this is a good warning. If you ever think about jumping off a house after you've had a few drinks, maybe let's shy away from it, but go ahead.
Agreed. Okay. So in that circumstance, hanging out with a bunch of my skater friends, musicians and whatnot. Right. And we're talking about that particular moment. And, and it's maybe, 17, 18 years old. We're partying. There's a flat top on my roof. We're up there drinking, hanging out. And the girlfriend at the time, just very sweet girl, she had pastries in the oven and was like, oh, all these pastries come out. You tipsy boys need something to eat. Soak up that alcohol. And I was like, I'm going to just jump off this building, this house. And it wasn't like a crazy, like it wasn't any ill intention. It was, just stupid, drunken fun and in your teenage years. And actually a friend did try to stop me, but my hard-headed ass was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'll land a skate trick higher than this before. And I did it. And I landed on a rock. I guess my heel, when landing, the impact landed on a rock, which shattered my heel. And if you know anything about like anatomy, is that the right word? Like just your body, that the heel, like throughout your life.
Anatomy.
Yeah, correct. Like builds, callus, it component like takes all your weight throughout life. So it's one of the hardest bones to break in your body. So the impact was so bad, it shattered it into a lot of like hairline fractures, which just caused it to kind of, be in a very, very bad state. But everybody thought I was drunk and to sleep it off. 7 hours later, as I was not able to sleep and in pain, went to the hospital eventually. And they gave me the news that I couldn't walk after that for a year and a half, but handed me a handful of pills, endless amounts of it too. It was literally, I've never seen a pill jar that is really that big and says take as needed for pain. But I'm in pain 24/7, not knowing anything about addiction at that time, pretending I'm a grown up at 18 years old with an older girlfriend than me. She was in her mid 20s. I was the cool nerd. So nobody enlightened me. So what I did was stay at home, and that started a crazy vicious cycle.
Were you at your parents' house then?
No, I was already on my own, playing house with this older girlfriend.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. And so you couldn't work or anything, I guess, right?
Yeah, no. It was...
So just drinking here and there, I suppose, maybe throughout the day?
Yeah, a little bit, definitely enhance the functionality of the painkillers. And, and she was in the makeup industry and, and enveloped and in love with me. So she was just like, you just get better as you become this raging addict. So that was, but at the same time, I definitely was, getting enveloped in music, had an acoustic at the time. So writing some songs of, disdain for parents and government and BS like
Okay.
that. But
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
All the things you're supposed to sing about at that age.
Right.
How long did that last? I guess it's a daily pain pill intake with some alcohol here and there and relaxing and playing music. Honestly, the 18-year-old part of my mind picturing back, it's like, it's not the worst thing. It is. It's bad, and I'm not shining a light on it. But at that age, I probably would be like, this is kind of cool.
It was. And again, sharing is caring. So, I was sharing with my friends. They were coming to check, watch me lounge on the couch, whether that be whatever. Have a couple drinks with me, eat a bunch of painkillers with me, and just kick it, So, yeah, you're right. It was this beautiful 25-year-old at 18, as a beautician, makeup artist in the industry and thriving that, life was perfect as I was becoming, going into the trenches, so to speak. And, yeah.
How'd you get out of that part? Well, it gets worse, I suppose. But what happened? You said you couldn't walk for a year and a half. At some point, they're like, well, I guess we can't prescribe you these anymore because you're good.
Right. So after that year and a half, finally, they're like, all right, we're going to take the boot off you. Went from cast, teal boot, to just that healing process to, they were like, everything's looking good, man. You're good to go. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. We're going to get back to life. So I leave the doctor's office, I enjoy walking around saying hello to everybody. A day or two goes by. And that evening, I started already catching sweats, and I did not sleep that first night, but it wasn't in pain, but it was starting already those withdrawal symptoms. And being Macho Man Randy Savage, as my dad instilled into me, I was not looking for any type of guidance at that age. So I wasn't asking what was wrong with me. I was trying to play house with this older girl, and 2-3 days go by, and I'm like heavy into no sleep, withdrawing, using marijuana and alcohol, just to kind of try to help it, but it did not do anything. It continued to progress and it got to the 4th, 5th day. And I was at a state where the lack of sleep, I was becoming almost hallucinating in ways, but just really off the cuff, unhinged. And an acquaintance of mine, I wouldn't ever say friend because of the road that it went down later. He was like, yeah, man, you're going through your detox and you're withdrawing from opiates. And I was like, well, how do I fix it? And he was like, you can wait it out or you can smoke this. And, my little instant gratification teenage mind just really wanted to sleep. I mean, for real, just I just needed to sleep. So that's what I did. And that was, I guess, my baby steps into heroin addiction.
Is that what he gave you to smoke?
Yeah, it was heroin. Yep.
We've got some new shirts, Counterflow with Buck Johnson on the front pocket, on the back. A beautiful graphic with, of course, dissident voices and unapproved opinions. You can see this on the YouTube version of the show, of course. We're putting the graphic up now. $30 flat fee. $30 gets you the t-shirt. The PayPal address is buck@counterflowpodcast.com. That is my PayPal. You can send $30 that method. Send me your address and the size you want. We have sizes small through 2XL. Again, sizes small through 2XL. Go to PayPal, $30 buck@counterflowpodcast.com. Give me your address in there and the t-shirt will be yours. Was the first step, and I only asked this because I didn't ever get that deep into that part of the culture, but was the first step oh my God, this is what I've heard about, this is dangerous? Or was it okay, I just need to sleep and screw it, this will work?
So I knew already in the punk scene, I knew what heroin was, you know what I mean? And, we know, like I said before, we all know in the punk scene that a lot of the DOC of some of the legends of the scene, they came and gone on that substance. So I did have a negative connotation to it. It was oh dude, no, I definitely don't want to be a dope head. But with the desperation of the moment, and the fact that it wasn't in a needle format, I was like,
Yeah.
bro, I put it on some foil and just smoke it like I do weed, or a cigarette, and it's cool. And it resolved just a little bit because it didn't take a lot. I wasn't that level of opiate addict. So it just took a very small amount. And, within 10 minutes, I was asleep, and it was like a curable at the moment, So that happened. And that's how I was introduced to that.
And then did that continue? I guess this is how that works, is like, well, I have that weird itch again. Where's that stuff at?
So it became a maintenance thing.
Okay.
I was very in the scene, in the neighborhood scene, the music scene already at the time, kind of a pivotal character where people would call me by my last name that I didn't know. They'd be like, what's that, Rudko? Like, what's that, Rudko? And I'm like, hi, okay. You're an operative. I don't know you. No, I'm kidding. But
yeah.
But it was maintenance. If it was anything, I would keep sunglasses on the majority of the time just to kind of, not to hide it, but hide it. And was just doing it to sleep at night. It wasn't, but with that, time just goes by so rapidly. Life progressed, and, you slowly need more and more and more. And
what was the girl thinking?
That I was smoking opium.
Okay.
But I was smoking opium, which is, a different, it's like a derivative of the poppy plant, just for the viewers. And it's a floral base, kind of almost like an incense. It's not as it would be on the same level of marijuana. So just downplayed it, to kind of offset that. It was, eventually that the girlfriend at that moment just dissipated as, my priorities started to shift.
Yeah. I heard you mention on Mano's show multiple times the fashion industry. What was your tie to that as far as, were you designing stuff? Would you work for someone? Was it a job? What was that scene?
Juicy Couture. It was a boutique. You probably heard it. All the girls used to wear. Remember, it would say Juicy on their butts.
Oh, yeah.
White pants.
Yeah.
But they were boutiques throughout. Little backplay on that. During this whole process, I was growing in that with that company where I went in just as a salesperson at a young age, became a visual merchandising manager, and then started being a district manager and started to build on that. They started paying for schooling, things of that nature, and started growing in that atmosphere just to shortly after dissolve every store. So they closed the stores. They became e-com. I think Dillard's carried them for a little bit. They shifted to being in just a carried product. So it was really hard to, start building the foundation with a company that dissolved in front of my eyes. Meanwhile, this raging addiction was happening, but I didn't understand it. I was just, again, on a maintenance program. So that was my entry level into the fashion industry. I also, you know what I'm saying? The scripture says there's nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, I was replicating, and taking what I liked from people like Johnny Thunders and the New York Dolls from the 70s, early 80s, that in 2000, in the early 2000s was like, oh my gosh, we've never seen this before. You're awesome. And that's where that comes into where, fashion does recycle. And then, so forth and so with that.
And did you keep going down that road after their stores all went to shit in front of your eyes?
Yeah, so I still did in ways, but I think a lot of the evolving of that was the networking as the interwebs were, growing, and, the networking was growing, and there was more exposure, easily exposed. You're some type of neighborhood celebrity because of your fashion statements and the scene you're involved in, to establishing that same kind of traction in the scene in certain avenues online where further connections happen in the fashion industry. So
okay. And did anyone in that industry or even when you were doing the work for Juicy Couture, say, Stevie, you okay? It seems you seem off today, or you're, drifting asleep or something like that. Nothing?
Yeah, not really. No, it, they, again, a big thing for me was the maintenance. It didn't become full blown addiction where I was, shooting an IV straight into the heart kind of stuff. And I wasn't not straight into the heart. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
All that being said, it didn't become uncontrollable. Like, probably at that point, it didn't become uncontrollable until I already had some partnerships in the industry, and where I was already getting kind of praise for the heroin chicness and whatnot. So it was almost all the aesthetic. So like the sunglasses was part of the whole image,
Yes.
It was like a tie-in. It wasn't, he's hiding something behind those eyes. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's almost like the aesthetic of that, if you're talking like the real deal versus the aesthetic's almost like a poser thing. Like, well, you're trying to look like heroin chic, but like did they not realize like, well, this guy is not putting this on like as a cost. This is him. Like he is this that we're copying.
Right. It was, and that's, and that's where it got like, that's where I think the sick concept of the whole thing was they wanted, like in that context, they wanted the poser because the raging addict could not produce, but they didn't want to accept the fact that I was a raging addict, because I still wasn't ashamed. I still driven on pride and ego, and that it's like, a typical junkie will shy away and pick his DOC over any type of behavior. I'm going to flaunt my addiction in your face. And if you want to talk about it or get upset about it, I previously would get physical or upset. Like I didn't mind, and we grew up in the punk rock scene. You know what it was about. It's just in your face. Like that's just what we were about.
What is DOC? You've said that a few times. What does that mean?
Drug of choice. Drug of choice.
Drug of choice. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're making like positive steps. The typical story you hear in pop culture is like, oh, this guy got on heroin and then just whole life went down the drain and then he overdosed and died. And I'm not trying to make it look cool, like, well, you did it and you were a hero, but like you were doing it, keeping a job, kind of growing in certain aspects of like your profession, if you will. And people were like, this guy's great. And I guess it's because it was like a maintenance level and you're not like laying in a gutter somewhere with a needle sticking out of your arm.
Flying a sign, like, yeah. So, and that was and that was also something that was really sick for me was I never dealt with those for a long time, never dealt with those repercussions like your typical average person would, after, okay, cool. Like I had, broken my leg and then get painkillers for two months. And then, it excels into something unmanageable where they lost everything. And then you see them on the corner or in a rehab. That was not present right away.
Do you think addiction is, let's say, is there a gene for it, or do you think it's a learned behavior?
Ooh, and I hope I do not offend anybody. I do believe it's a learned behavior. I never accept it.
I do too, by the way. So yeah, if you're offended by that, sorry, go listen to a show that doesn't tell you that.
Right, 100%. You know what I'm saying? That is a lack of accountability. You know what I mean? And if you want a crutch, you're going to be in the revolving door of holding that as a crutch the rest of your life and justifying your actions and relapsing. And until you accept that and take accountability for your actions, and then you can't manage your fun. That's it. Let's do a layman structure. You just can't manage your fun. Like, it's not, and I mean, to each is their own. And yes, the science is there. And maybe your grandpa was an alcoholic and all, like, whatever. Let's not play the game. But yes, 100% take accountability for your actions. I never swallowed that pill in that format of, well, it's, I can't control it.
Yeah. I'm an addict for life, so to speak.
Right.
How did you get out of that?
scientifically, it's called neuroplasticity, and that takes time, you know what I mean, to rewire the brain. And it's just practice makes perfect. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, the AA rooms, and to each is their own. It helps a lot of people, you know, but they do, I was off put with the God of your own understanding. I was off put with it being a disease and all that. And I couldn't accept that because, again, I'm about accountability, always have been. And like I said, to each is their own. I'm not by any means bashing. I'm great friends. Some of my best friends have gone through that program. They have changed their life around.
Same, right.
Yeah. So again, excuse me, and please don't take that offensively. It just was not what I could conceive in my mind. Knowing myself and knowing myself and just not needing a crutch any longer towards the end, you know, because that kind of behavior, because don't get it twisted, I've been, you know, through the almost 15 years of addiction, I did go through my plenty of shares of detox centers, rehabs, and AA, NA meetings where that is the concept and the formulation, or like the format. And I just, and I would always go right back, because especially with the context of it being a gene and a disease. And I was like, how dare you say it's a disease? You can sit there and woe is you say it's a disease next to the person who actually has something, when you just need to just, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's
neuroplasticity is the rewiring of the mind after you have something habit forming, you know. And a lot of people, you'd see it in like cases of somebody who survived a shooting in the head. The brain starts, after healing, it starts rewiring itself around that, and they can become like, and still have, you know, certain behaviors. You can see them in a lot of trauma-based situations or head trauma, you know, where the brain is a powerful thing. I mean, dude, our bodies are so miraculous and have so much healing capabilities. And yeah, so that being said, yeah, it was practice, man. It was practice and accepting that, like, dude, it's not, you know, this is not a joke. It did take a lot, and we will get, you know, to that part in the story. Like, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ODs and still no lessons learned.
What was I've never been to AA or NA or any of those sort of things. Like you, I have a ton of friends. It's like coming from, I think, from the music scene, and then you get past a certain age, sometimes I look around and I think I have more friends that don't drink now than do. Not the firefighting part of my life. That's way different. But was there what sort of, I've always heard this AA is kind of a generic spirituality where there's like this vague concept of like some nebulous higher power. What is their thing there? And I think, especially now that you're getting into the Orthodox Church, maybe you can even see that in a different way than you saw it at the time. What is that?
Okay, so the way I would explain it after dissecting it multiple times and trying to understand that, again, this is from experience. You know what I mean? I've been there, I've been in the seats, and coming from my background, it is, and the creators of AA, again, of that, which was a doctor and an alcoholic psychiatrist, I believe, they literally took the scripture, the Bible, and medical practices, time frames and whatnot, and put together this and formulated this concept, or this AA. So now in the year 2025, it's a God of your own understanding, but they were only talking about one God. It was Christ. You know, it was the Bible. Okay. They say the Lord's Prayer. They hold hands together.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. For real, I know the Lord's Prayer by heart through the meetings in my youth. And they do it every time. So what it is spirituality for dummies. But you know the books, and I don't mean for dummies, but excuse me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Dummies. It's baby steps, you know, shout out SOS, spoon fed, you know, spirituality. And that it truly is, because then it starts off like, you know, the concept of Christ or God is a lot. So they want to say, okay, a God of your own understanding, you know, the ocean be your God, you know, which, you know, contradicts a lot of the practices and prayers they're saying and all that.
Yes.
And, so.
Would the Orthodox Church back then have been beyond your maybe not comprehension? Would it have just been not right for you at the time?
And you're speaking back then in what sense?
As you were going, because when I first discovered Orthodoxy, I was a little bit bitter that no one had ever introduced it to me before. And I had to go through this process of like, why didn't someone tell me about this? And then it clicked like, well, because you might not have been ready for this. It could have been that when I was in my late 20s, I would have gone, no, that's still goofy. I don't know that. But I know that God has a way of, I believe, kind of revealing certain things when you're ready for them.
Oh, dude. So that's so radical, bro, to even, in such a pivotal point to even bring up, because, I'm getting baptized on the 24th, which is coming up. All glory to God. And the parish being such sustenance, you know what I mean? I've never felt that, even enveloped in the church as in my youth, and my dad being a preacher. My dad baptized all three of my other brothers, and in their younger years and whatnot. And once again, like we discussed early on, I had enough respect, enough scripture knowledge that I knew that one thing I didn't want to be is lukewarm. I'd rather be a sinner and just go down and be like, all right, Jesus, I love you, dude. I'm not pretending. I get it. I'm going to just walk on down, versus go up there and be like, oh yeah, dude, like this is a show, because I had enough respect even then to do that. So I never got baptized, even though my older brother was, and my dad was the one doing it in front of a massive congregation. There was I wasn't it. I wasn't ready. And it's just like, so through, this process and the crazy trauma and the birth of my children and all that, going into the parish and, putting in my time, so to speak, all glory to God, dude, that it's just such a time. The time is so appropriate for that. And it's like, and I wouldn't want it any other way in any other church or whatever you want to, like, it's again, just phenomenal. It's crazy.
Yes.
And I didn't understand it then. You're right. I would have never, I just would have never even entertained, but I would respect, I would go to the Greek festival. That's how I was introduced to the Orthodox community early on in my youth. I didn't understand. I thought they were radical Christians, or it's like a heritage thing that I didn't understand. But in my town, the Greek Orthodox would throw this Greek festival every year. And it was like a massive, fun, culture shock ordeal. And that's all it was to me. Like, well, this church is intense and awesome, but nobody was bashing or telling you what it was about. It's just a festival. So
yes, yeah. That's the Orthodox Church has never been as big on let's say talking and trying to sell you on stuff as Jehovah's Witness knocking on your door or whatever the stereotype of that is. I've noticed that, and there's this. I don't remember who. It might have been Father Turbo said it once. One of the priests I'm close with said, this might sound harsh, but just so you know, the church doesn't need you. You need the church. And so I think that's almost that sort of mindset, like, we don't have to go out and like, please, we need you, come, we need more members. I mean, we'd always like that. Of course, my parish is growing and we'd love to have 100 more members per week, but there's not this like, please, let me just talk to you for an hour outside your door. It's always like, it seems like, and this is appealing to me, it's the come and see and experience. And at some point, if you're truly looking for Christ or truth, the capital T truth, you're going to end up here. Amen. We're not going to necessarily knock on every door in the cul-de-sac and say, please come check it out. Let's get to the gas station incident. What period of time, based on what we've discussed already, like what was all this? How did this happen?
So it was essentially time period wise. It was an in-depth into like my addiction. I would say right around the COVID era, you know what I mean? But during with that, I was trying my darndest, my damnedest to be sober in the world's eyes. You know what I mean? So cut the heroin out, and was using like medicinal medicine to replicate and not go through the process of detox, rehab, all that. So 2020 Cinco de Mayo, go out sober, like I said before, sober to enjoy a show, like a punk show, like a folk punk show. And
as we record this, Stevie, we're 3 days away from this anniversary, 5-year anniversary of this.
Isn't that crazy? Wow. Yeah, that's true. I think even, yeah, that's incredible.
And here you are.
And wow, dude, like, wow, like, man, the dead guy was 5 years ago, and the things that I've been blessed with, I mean, it's just so beyond, like, conceiving that it was, and all glory to God that I could be out of such a hellacious time. But that being said, I'm trying, it was Cinco de Mayo. I was trying to normalize myself because, again, I was a raging junkie at the time with a one-track mind, still business savvy, so you would never know. I wasn't rugged, I was still trying to keep up a pretty boy demeanor and all that, fashion statement, and never hit away. A lot of times it's like people are doing their worst, and they're what happened to this guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was very present. I comb my hair, you know what I mean? So the number one step in any type of is presented, if you're feeling bad, they say become presentable first. I mean, actually the scripture actually talks about that too. And it says when you're fasting, go take a shower. Do not let people know you're fasting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not by any means, not to manipulate scripture, but it is it's a pivotal parable. You know what I mean? It's just and it's a great step for your psyche, all that. But May 4th, going into May 5th, I believe it was, exactly, for Cinco de Mayo, or it was May 5th. Go out and I successfully have a great time at this folk punk show. You know what I mean? Get kind of semi-tipsy, but I wasn't wasted. I'm still somebody who likes to be in control, so getting sloppy drunk, I think the trauma of that whole shattering the heel is not my forte,
Yeah.
So, and I had a very successful night, very fun time, innocently, I'm driving home, and I'm right around the corner from my house, and I needed to buy a pack of cigarettes and put some gas in my car. And there were some tweaker drug addicts of some sort. I most likely methamphetamine. They were very kind of weird, and it was late, and they asked me for some cigarettes, and I was like, yeah, when I get out, I'll get you some cigarettes. You know what I mean? I'll give you a couple. And of course, I'm not aesthetic. It bothers sober people. I'm sure it bothered the tweaker. You know what I mean? But it was just and it was so weird. Came out, gave him a cigarette, a cigarette or two, and then I got back to my car, it's pumping gas. And next thing I know, there's a bottle in my throat, a broken bottle in my throat from the back. So, and then it goes from here, as you can see, goes up.
Did you say it was in your throat?
Yeah, right here. And then I think my natural reaction was it was from the back, you know what I mean? It's to kind of pull away. So that pulled up here. It fractured my jaw a little bit. I have a pretty big chunk here missing. So, and then adrenaline kicks in. You know what I mean? I didn't feel pain. And I didn't feel pain during the time. And then I was wearing a really nice hat, and which is not beside the point, but I go to pick it up. And he's freaking out, thinking I'm going to reattack him, and kind of runs off. And get in my car, get to, I guess the gas station attendant already called the cops and witnessed it all. You know what I mean? And they had camos. It was a pretty updated gas station. But I go back to my house right around the block, eventually, call the ambulance, the medics, tell them what's up. And I sit there and smoke a cigarette, but I had this piece upon me. You know what I mean?
Did they hit the carotid?
I don't know exactly. I was bleeding intensely.
Okay.
but it did not. It didn't. I know what it didn't. It didn't hit like it didn't hit my throat, so I wasn't like drowning. But it
Okay.
was, so I don't know the exact details of what it hit. I do know that it hit a tendon here, and I had to do therapy to use this side of my mouth. And I was wearing a turtleneck, dude, and the doctor said that if that millimeter of cloth wasn't there, it would have penetrated like my jugular or something like my throat.
Yeah.
And that would have
The turtleneck saved you.
that literally did. It really did. For real. And I still have it, man. Anyways, I get into you're sitting there smoking a cigarette, and it's like literally the first time I'm dying or experiencing death. Though I OD'd a million times over. It's just, you're not present during that. You just kind of like, but this is like, this is weird. This was different. And it was wild. It really, really brought that junkie mentality, childlike mindset of being unstoppable or indestructible into play. It's like, this is real. You know what I mean? Literally watching myself, feeling myself die. So I get back in the back of the ambulance, and the paramedic is like, I got to cut this turtleneck off you, or you want to help me take it off you, because it's really nice turtleneck. And I helped them take it off me, and then I died. You
died there.
Yeah, I died right there. It's what what I was told. I didn't wake up for another, I didn't, and I was on an intensive care for 3-4 days until I came to. But, so during that time period, again, the doctor refused to let me go and fought for it. I was told 9 hours straight. So that was crazy that somebody invested that amount of time and energy into me when I was just already at a low point. And physically, and mentally and spiritually, just so dead, that just that was wild. It was just a wild, to experience. And all glory to God. That man is amazing. So that happened. There was a little bit of like I said, a little, they knew I was an addict at that time. So when I did get sent home with the, my throat all sealed up, stapled up or stitched up, they gave me a methadone pill form and painkillers still, because on top of the methadone, there was still a lot of pain going on. The movement of my mouth and throat was just excruciating, super tight skin, all that. And then did a little bit of rehabbing. And then once again, that same sickness, you know what I mean? There was no, so after 30 days, the stitches were out. I believe or a month and a half, the stitches were out. I was getting already I was back at it. The pills ran out. The methadone pill form ran out. And I go out and OD again, dude.
Oh my.
Yeah. After that. And this time it was just also another severe point where I just died in the middle of a very busy intersection with my foot on the brake instead of the gas. I was doing a U-turn.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they bust, I remember waking up at the back of a paramedic on that same road. They busted me out, the doors were locked. So they busted the window to get me out. They're like, dude, I don't know what's going on with you, but the fact of the matter that you died doing the U-turn with your foot on the brake makes no sense. You would have killed probably yourself and somebody else. And, they, again, I don't know if it was because of files they pulled up, but they hauled up the drugs that were in the car, and they were like, you're not getting this back. I didn't get a charge or anything. And they're like, your car's in the tow yard. And at that point was just that's when the defeat came in, and really, I was just so done. I was just so exhausted. And shortly afterwards, just I'm done with this town. I don't need accessibility. I really want to work on myself. I was, dealing with just trauma head problems. And what I mean by that, it's just mental health problems. My anxiety was through the roof and all that. And just again, just so beat up. And then I went to South Florida to just essentially heal, get into a system. Was in a rehab for a month and a half. in like a very higher end detox center, which was super awesome. And the wild part about that, just to bring it, because this is like a huge pivotal point, during that time period after my sobriety, I signed with a big fashion industry. It's more like an e-com, but it's very pivotal in the alternative industry. And I don't want to drop names and all that jazz. I'm sure if you can do your research and see the brands that I've interacted with via Instagram. But all that to be said, yeah, it was a weird blessing from, I'd say, the devil at that moment, because it was, I mean, this brand is, mad party scene, mad, just sexuality, half naked girls, alternativeness, and all that. But I just like healed, got out of this situation, and already had on my heartstrings tugged on. Like multiple people are like, people don't survive what you're surviving. Someone's looking up. But all that being said, it was years previously, I met my wife, who is my wife, but we just like interacted through my escapades of detox and going to Florida to do that, because South Florida's like the rehab capital of the world, apparently. Everybody goes there if they're doing it, and we are doing that whole situation. But we stayed in contact via Facebook. And after I got out of detox, and was thriving and was sober, you know what I mean? We linked back up and just, lived a good, healthy, did the whole dating scene, got engaged, and eloped and got married. And then we found out we were pregnant. And that's when there was a pivotal time. Again, I was offered to grow in my position in that fashion industry, where it would have detoured me and put me right back in that life of sickness and death. I would have been dead, I promise you that, if I did. But it's just something, it was like a fork in the road. And though it was, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out, I'm going to bring a child in this life, I need to do something. I decided to, be a family man. I was like, talk to the wifey about it. It's like I either can be on a plane every day, every week, and not be here, but we make X amount of capital, or we'll take the lower end of the deal and I'll be present. We decided to do that and packed up home. Yeah, and that's and we moved and we got out of South Florida, the whole party scene. And then from there, a lot of my profession at that time was done through the interwebs. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then were you looking like, well, I was raised Christian, I need to find something to kind of help center me. What was the...
So as I was developing, and for like just I needed to, you know what I mean? I needed guidance. I knew, I already had like the foundation, or the concept, knowledge of the path of the straight and narrow, you know what I mean? And I never lost like those morals, that structure. Like I said before, I had that respect and I understood it. And what I just knew during that time period that I needed to, to lead, my children and my wife into the church, including myself. I still need to heal. And I promise you, I've been offered every freaking pill under the sun, you know what I mean? And denied all of them because it's just a vicious cycle myself. You know what I mean? I know already, like benzos because of my anxiety and you need this. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, it's just sickening for me at this point. You know what I mean? I've just been, so, I've denied that, but I knew that I needed spiritual healing. So I started diving in and definitely didn't want to go to a Protestant church. And it's again, to each his their own, God bless.
Sure.
Because again, my parents are active Protestants. There's nothing wrong with that. Wonderful people, love, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not that type of character, but to pass judgment, and nor should any of us be. yeah, I just, I did a little bit of studying, and then, searching on the interwebs, and, I believe Death to the World came into like opening, like, I guess sowing the seed would be the best way to put it, which opened an avenue into a lot more. And then, I, started reaching out to people who were pretty pivotal characters in that scene. Justin Marler, Father John Valadez, and then, saw a clip of Father Turbo and saw his background. Then it kind of, I guess, opened up that first interview that Mano had with him. And then that, I believe, something along those lines. Again, I don't remember all of it to the T, but again, the birth of my first son was so radical, and so I have felt like the presence of Christ, and or just like that conviction and whatnot. But I have never been stared by God, like, you know what I mean? Like, just straight into my soul, and just like, it was so crazy. Like, I've never been so happy and scared at the same time. But then, I was like, this ish is real, dude. Like, this is wild, and I need to, I don't want, like, I need to be enveloped. And so, with, peers and some very humble characters in the ortho world, their main directive was get in the parish. Like, you can do all the studying you want on here. You can find and read all about the saints, and but get in a parish. Just get in. So, and that's what I did. And, these walls started tearing down, like, in just like this shock. The first few times that I went to my parish, like, dude, I just cried the entire service. Just crying. And it was just, it was just like this wild thing that just like really just tore down these walls. I knew that this is where I needed to be. And that healing, you know what I mean? It was incredible. It was crazy.
Did you, before I went in, I feel that I look a little different than your average Joe. I think you would probably feel that you look different than your average Joe. Did you think, I was like, I don't know what they're going to think of me in this place. Should I wear long sleeves? I don't know what to do. I don't know where to look, who to talk to. Did you have that like angst? Like, I hope they don't think I look weird.
Oh yeah. And I mean, and in my parish is like, there's like full-blooded Serbians too that don't even speak English still. You know what I mean? So yeah, and I got, but it was, I mean, dude, I've been so conditioned to that, Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Protestant, or Orthodox, secular, other person. Like, bro, I would get dressed in the secular scene, but that's not, again, at that point and in my age and maturity and just like where I was, it's like, that's for the birds. Who cares? Like, I'm not here to, I truly was not there to make friends, dude. I was defeated. I needed guidance, and it had nothing to do with anybody around me, but you know what I mean? The organicness and just like the love of Christ and the guidance through, spiritual father. And that was it. Like, I mean, but I did it. Yes. In my humane pride and whatnot. Yeah, dude, I definitely, felt all eyes like just peering and like, what is this, what is this guy doing here? And, yeah, I mean, but the father of my parish was just, I mean, dude, he is such an amazing person. And also just like, I don't know, I guess my radicalness and it being very weird to that situation, he definitely, addressed the congregation and like in a sense, you know what I mean? Not pointing to me, but just like really kind of put it out there that like, this is what the purpose is, you know what I mean? And love. So, you know, after now I've been going there for, you know, about 2 years, and, you know, I mean, dude, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. I mean, dude, if I looked at myself, I would be like, what's this punk ass doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's not, I'm not hurt by it. It's just true. It's just like,
no, same. Yeah. Well, and they assured me like, no one cares what you look like. I'm always in the back of my mind, like someone does. But again, now it's just doesn't even cross my mind.
Right.
But you obviously needed the real hospital, as I say real, the medical hospital several times in your life. And now you're in what we would say the spiritual hospital, the hospital for the soul. Does it feel in a similar manner, if you could make an analogy to it, does it feel like this is helping do for your spirituality and your soul what those help do for your neck and your heel and whatnot?
Oh, dude, completely, man. Wow. Like, wow. Yeah, sometimes I don't even real, like, you know what I'm saying? The healing, I just am like, you know, I'm just like, who is this man that I've like become? And just like the way I'm thinking, or, you know, some of the behaviors and thoughts, and just like the heart, you know what I mean? The heart, that was just like a prideful, judgmental prick. You know, it's decayed, like that disgust, like that, you know, it definitely has been just mending my soul. It has, truly, it's incredible. And it's almost hard to put into words, but yeah.
Which saint has spoken to you as far as like relating to like their story or whatnot?
Oh, so a couple of the saints have, I would say, I like Saint Ambrose of Optima.
Okay.
I like his humility. And so when I look into, I know there was like that one saint that was, you know, an alcoholic from birth, and I'm not the best with names. I promise you, I'm like just not the best. There also was somebody who in his youth was addicted to drugs. And I, you know, read through, you know, plenty of, you know, the Death To the World. I'm just terrible with names. But Saint Ambrose Optima is kind of like my hero, or like who I look for because of his humility and just loving the charity. He says, like our growth is like two angel wings, and one is humility, and the other one is charity and compassion for your neighbor. You know, and me just driving my whole life was driven on pride. And including my career, an egotistical asshole, bro. And it's just like, and it truly is. And there's been plenty of saints have talked about, like, dude, you don't need a demon if you're prideful. Like that itself will destroy you. You don't have to worry. If you're a proudful man, you don't need a demon to be inside you, because you will destroy yourself. I mean, it's the same even at the beginning. What happened with Lucifer? And then, a choice angel had literally, and he fell. Pride is the catalyst of all destruction. And, and as Orthodox Christians, the practice of humility, you know, and understanding and compassion, you know, it truly, it's just like, wow, it's just who I need to be. Like, you know what I mean? It's why.
Yeah. You've kind of alluded to it. Death to the World, and was it the aesthetic that first caught your eye? And did you speak? I know you spoke with Justin. In fact, Justin, if I remember correctly, I saw on his website, I was looking once, and there was a write-up that you did, if I remember correctly. Did Justin and Father John Valadez help kind of guide you, and what initially drew you to Death to the World?
Okay, so what drew me to Death to the World obviously was just like, and it was in passing. I don't even know how it came up in my like, or whatever, the marketing, how it came up. But, you know, and it definitely is coming from the aesthetic of, you know, the marketing aspect and shock culture and the punk rock scene and the metal scene, post-hardcore scene. It definitely, it just was like a hook, line, and sinker with the title "Death to the World." And you're just like, what is this about? And as I dived in and figured that out, I watched something on YouTube early on, as I believe I was looking into, and the first thing that I saw was like a schema monk, and I was like, dude, that guy looks awesome. I was like, that,
Yep.
And that had nothing to do with Death to the World at first. That's how it kind of like my search led into Death to the World, which then play and its founders and current creators, have done so much on a level of guidance, truly have been spiritual fathers to me before I attained a physical spiritual father. With just like the love and compassion and honesty throughout the whole thing. And it just literally, I actively talk to them, and, frequently through the web and whatnot.
Yeah.
They're very excited about my baptism coming up. It's just, and by the grace of God, those guys are so awesome. And, it's like, I hope to be that for someone, for, some punk rock stupid character. I don't want to say like undermine myself. No. I'm not beating myself up, but like just some arrogant asshole that is like really looking for it and has been through the trenches, So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. This has been awesome. In closing, is there anything you'd like to close with, or thoughts that are leading into your baptism, or really anything?
Yeah, man. Dude, Christ is real, man. It is, the parish is a hospital. It is, if you're into any type of Star Wars, it is the way. Like, this is the way. And that's a saying in Mandalorian, and the Mandalorian episodes. But all that, I'm a nerd sometimes. My son's name is Anakin, but all that to be said, yeah, this is the way, the truth, and the light. You know what I mean? It is. And it's like, I don't know how to. I've been in the world, been part of the world, and I've been, killed by the same world too. And this is where it's at.
Glory to God. Do you want to plug anything? Instagram stuff?
Yeah, no, I won't plug any local parish around your household.
There you go.
Plug, please. If you want to find, you know what I'm saying, I'm sure you can find me at a parish somewhere along the ways.
That's an excellent answer. Stevie Rudko, thanks for being here on Counterflow, sir. It's been great.
It really has been a blessing and a pleasure. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. All right, don't forget, as this show premieres in just 2 days, Thursday, May 8th, our Patreon supporter Zoom chat with Father Joshua Gainig, Ask the Priest Anything You'd Like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on X at BuckRebel, BuckRebel. And next week, the deep dive into Mormonism from an Orthodox perspective. I've been learning a lot just researching stuff for this interview. It's going to be a good one. See you guys Thursday night, and see the rest of you next week. Y'all have a good one. Like the sound of the Counterflow Podcast? Our audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.
This has been